where Huntington Beach comes to talk. Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Doug O'Neill is a thoroughbred horse trainer. He was raised in Dearborn, but he lives out here in California. Now joins us. Doug.
Hello, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing great. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. It's beautiful to bring the Kentucky Derby trophy back to the West Coast.
And this horse, I'll Have Another, seems like a special horse. You may be able to go all the way.
I tell you, Larry, he's amazing. He's just got such a great mind. You know, it's like those athletes that you want to, clutch part of the game. I'll Have Another has that kind of makeup to where he just handled 165,000 people without a problem and just ran a beautiful race. And
I think I've read, Doug, that you described him as Kobe-like, ice water in his veins.
It's so true. You know, these horses are all so beautiful, and you'll get some of them, though, you put some pressure on them, and they shrivel up a little bit, and then some really thrive on it, and I'll Have Another just, he wants it. He wants to beat you, and he wants the ball at, when the game's on the line, and you saw that in the stretch run there in Kentucky.
Doug, does that mean I'll Have Another will soon be feuding with Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, he can shoot a free throw. He could probably shoot a free throw better than Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, tell us about you. I understand your family was not into horse racing. You kind of got into it on your own.
Yeah, I'm a first-generation horseman, but my dad was always an avid fan of horse racing. I was raised in Dearborn, Michigan, and then we moved to California when I was 10. And like the first weekend we were out here, we went to Santa Anita, and I was like, oh my God, it was just an absolute unbelievable experience for me. And I had a basketball coach who went to school as a trainer, and it wasn't that long after I was working in the barn area, and right out of high school I went to work. I when people ask me if I went to school, I say I went to the University of Del Mar, because I went right to work at Del Mar right after high school, and I've been doing it ever since. Let's
hear a little bit of the call of the race.
For me?
No, don't worry, Doug. I'm going to play something.
Bodie Meister at the top of the stretch, and Bodie Meister's got a 5-length lead. I'll Have Another on the outside. Now has moved into second, and then down toward the outside, Creative Cause. Bodie Meister holding on to the lead. I'll Have Another on the outside is closing in. I'll Have Another collars Bodie Meister. Dullahan on the far outside. Here's the wire. I'll Have Another has won the Kentucky Derby. And then it was Bodie Meister, Dullahan, and went the day well.
Doug O'Neill, I'll Have Another broke from the 19th hole. That's never been done before. Explain to people how difficult that is.
Well, you almost feel detached from the field. You almost feel like you're starting out in the parking lot when you're that far out from the rail. But the one great thing about being on the outside like that, and when in a 20-horse field, when they're going to that first turn, a lot of times there's a lot of traffic troubles, and horses on the inside are getting jammed up, and so sometimes being on the outside, you can stay clear of that. And our jockey Mario Gutierrez did a beautiful job of breaking from the 19 hole and only being like 2 wide on the first turn. That was just a brilliant job of horseback riding, and a lot of credit goes to Mario.
When you guys found out you were going to get the 19th hole, what was Mario's reaction?
He's a cool kid. Even though it was his very first Derby he's ever ridden in, he's a very positive kid, and he said, we get to load near the end, so we just started focusing on all the positives. He wouldn't have to stand in the gate that long, because the way they load it, 19 would be near the end there. So, he just said, hey, I'll get to see what the speed is going to do inside of me, and I'll find a good position for him. So he's a very humble kid, very soft-spoken kid, but very confident jockey, and he just rode it perfectly.
I'm talking to Doug O'Neill. He trained the winner of the Kentucky Derby, I'll Have Another. Doug, it gets harder after this. Isn't the Preakness a longer race, and then after that, assuming you win that, isn't Belmont even longer?
No, the way that it's set up, you're completely right, though. It's extremely difficult 3 races to win, because now you're coming back in 2 weeks rest, so it's a very short turnaround. The Preakness, though, is actually a little bit shorter than the Kentucky Derby. It's a mile and 3/16. And And then 3 weeks later, then it's a mile and a half. It's the longest race of the 3-year-old year. So it's a real challenge in 5 weeks to try to win all 3 of those, and that's why it hasn't happened since '78. But I got a really good feeling, Larry, that we could be the one to do it since '78.
Well, I've been an avid horse follower for a number of years. I remember 1978, and I remember Affirmed. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Ruffian finish second each time?
Alydar.
Alydar. I knew somebody finished second each time. So if it hadn't been for Affirmed, Alydar would have been the Triple Crown winner.
How about that?
Yeah.
And some were just nose finishes. I know that had to be so brutal for those connections of Alydar to do. Such a classy, hard-knocking horse, but unfortunately he ran in a year where Affirmed was running, so he just unlucky there.
Now, Doug, tell us about the owner of I'll Have Another. Bought I'll Have Another for $35,000.
Bought it for $35,000. Mr. Paul Redham and his wife Zilla. Paul was raised in Windsor, Canada, kind of a blue-collar family, and just through education and hard work, he actually got his doctorate and got a PhD in philosophy at USC out here in California. He taught for a couple of years out here, and then he went on his own in the business world. He started up Ditech and grew that, sold it for a gazillion dollars, and then started up Cash Call, and he's still doing Cash Call as we speak, and he's just always been an avid horse racing fan, and now he's a big owner. He's just a great, generous, super good guy.
I'm talking to Doug O'Neill. He is the man who trained the winner of the Kentucky Derby, I'll Have Another. Doug, as I mentioned, I've always been an avid horse fan, and I played horses ever since I was 10 or 11 years old. My mother was worried. I had a bookie also. But I would go out and I'd watch the horses walk out on the track and try to figure out something by looking at them. What should I be looking at?
Well, it's one of those things where they all have personalities. They're all individual, and ideally you're able to see a horse a few times before you bet them, because some horses will get a little sweaty and they run good. Some will be good, and when they get sweaty, you don't want to touch them that day. So ideally you can watch them a few times or pick somebody's brain who's there every day to kind of help you out. But it's funny you say that. I remember going to St. Monica's. My friend Mark Burge, who's now the CEO of Santa Anita, we took like 3 buses to go from Santa Monica to Santa Anita, and we invited a friend of ours, a kid named Tim Marble, to the track. And on the way home, Tim started crying. We were like 14 or 15. We were like, Tim, what is wrong? It wasn't that big of a deal. And he told us, I just lost all my Jogathon money. So yeah, we definitely we weren't the greatest influence on our peers at that time with the old gambling thing. But I've had my share of brutal days too at the track, Doug. Now you are married. You have 2 kids, Daniel, age 9, and Kaylin, age 7. And I read that you promised them if you won the Kentucky Derby, you would install a hot tub. And a reporter was talking to your son. They were in a group celebrating, and your son said, "Hot tub, baby." That's so true. Yeah, we're blessed to have a little home in Santa Monica, but the backyard's not big enough for a pool, and the kids want a pool so bad. But I'm always promising things that usually never happen, so it's kind of one of those deals. And a couple weeks ago, I said to Daniel, he bugged me about the pool. I said, listen, if we win the Derby, which I thought was so far-fetched, I'll get you a hot tub. And when I found him in the crowd after we won the thing, that's the first thing he said was, hot tub, baby. So we're shopping.
Now, Doug O'Neill, your life has already changed. You're having won the Kentucky Derby as a trainer. Assume you win the Preakness and Belmont. What happens to your life as a trainer?
Wow. I think it's one of those where you just, with new owners or even your current owners, you can have that confidence in your barn, and your staff can have that confidence that, hey, if we get a Kobe Bryant or a Pau Gasol-like athlete, we can win the Derby. And, it seems like such a far-fetched thing, but once you get there, you realize, hey, with the staff that we have, we can get there again. So I think it's just a huge confidence boost, and we're hoping to take the next 2.
Sounds like 2 hot tubs, baby.
There you go. Get ready.
Doug O'Neill, trainer of the Kentucky Derby winner, I'll Have Another, and soon, hopefully, a winner of Preakness and maybe even the Belmont. Doug,
West Coast, baby. West Coast.
We'll talk soon then, Doug.
I love it. Thanks a lot, Larry.
You got it.
Take care.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the comment that was made by a Fox analyst, and she insulted Tucker Carlson in a racist way. and denied that she insulted him. All that's coming up. Larry Elder, don't go away.